All right, welcome back. It's the Breakfast Daily, and we are going to get into some community-focused conversations. Now, today we're going to be talking a little bit more about Galamsey and, taking you to the Western region, some of the issues that are happening there. But don't forget that the show is interactive, and we do like to hear from you throughout the show. So kindly use the hashtag Breakfast Daily for us to hear what you're thinking about the different conversations. If you're watching us on our streams, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching us. And if you are watching on TV, well, it's the WhatsApp line is 0550-585832, especially if you live in the Western region. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts about the water bodies that are around you? Be the Brim, be the Pra, whichever one you're experiencing, the Galamsey waters. Galamsey waters make the rivers look like Ovaltine, or, hot chocolate with a lot of milk in it, and it's a very nasty experience. Even observing it from the air is more horrifying. But we want to go over to Akwesi Anim Ejay's report that he's done regarding the pollution of the Pra River, the current situation as far as the Galamsey effects on our water bodies are concerned, and the impact on Ghana Water Company Limited. Let's take a look.
River Pra is today the main source of raw water that is treated by the Ghana Water Company's water treatment plant here in Daboase in the Wassa East District of the Western region. But unfortunately, this is the state of water that is treated by the plant. A look at it tells you that the turbidity or the purity of this very water is in bad shape. This very pumping plant or the intake is where the water is actually pumped into the plant for processing. But a look at it shows that the pumping machines over here are having issues because the water state is what actually impacts on the pumping machine. And according to engineers over here, whenever the turbidity of the water is that bad, it also affects the efficiency of the pump. And for that matter, its ability to actually pump enough water into the plant for processing. We will be going inside the pumping room to actually see the states of the pumping machines and how they work. You could be seeing that it is very far below, and this is the state of the kind of water that the company has to actually treat for the general masses consumption. And as you can see, it is not really in good taste at all. According to the Ghana Water Company, these 4 pumps we actually see here at the intake point or the pumping room where the water is actually pushed from the river into the plant for processing. When this pump have to deal with a very bad turbidity of the quality of water coming in here, the pump sometimes even gives up, and that affects the quantity of pumping that will actually happen here in the pumping room before the water actually gets to the plant. And the issue here is that for the pumps to actually do the work that they have to do, the turbidity of the water or the purity of the water should not be that bad. And whenever it is that bad, it has its own implication on the lifespan or the quality of work the pumps have to do. So now I've actually moved inside the Daboase water treatment plant proper, where we have 2 main settling tanks. The one actually on my right, I'm told, is supposed to, under normal circumstances, have about 3 million gallons of water. And this one on my left side is supposed to also have 3 million gallons of water. Inside here at the dividing chamber, I'm told this is where from the intake the raw water actually came into the plant. And over here, the water is actually mixed with alum before it moves straight into the settling tanks. And this very settling tanks has 2 chambers. You see the primary settling tank over there looks very dirty. I mean, the turbidity of the water over there is an issue. It goes through some kind of processing before it comes to the secondary chamber where the water actually settles. And then you see that there's a serious contrast between the state of the water from the primary chamber and the second chamber. And from here, I'm told it goes into that facility over there where several chemicals is actually applied. And don't forget, the Ghana Water Company has always been complaining that a lot of chemicals has to be actually used in processing the water before it gets to our individual homes, and that costs them money. And so for them, looking at the state of the turbidity of the water in the primary chamber before it comes to the secondary chamber, this is all cost to the states. And for such monies to actually be spent wisely, the issue of galamsey must be checked. It must be nipped in the bud for this country to cut down on the cost of water that is consumed.
The demand for water is between 15 and 20 million gallons of water a day. Sometimes I produce 2 million. As I told you, 2 million in a day. And sometimes the water doesn't produce at all, nothing comes out. Because of galamsey, illegal mining activities upstream the Pra River, there is so much silt accumulation at the intake. This silt deposit makes it very difficult for at least some amount of water to come to the intake. So instead of seeing water there, you would rather be seeing silt. And instead of our pumps abstracting water, instead of drawing water to the plant, it ends up taking silt, sand, into the plant. So this makes it very difficult for us to be able to get adequate quantities of water to abstract. Ghana Water Company, we ourselves cannot stop galamsey.
So after touring the plant, we have come to the chemistry lab to actually see what actually goes through in terms of, the processes that the water that is taken, and the raw water, goes through before it becomes, water that is close to something that we can consume. And over here at the lab, as you can see, we've been told that this very water in this glass is the raw water that came from the intake. And several chemicals is actually added throughout this series before we get something that is close to what can actually be considered water to be consumed. And that gives you an idea of the level of, or the quantity of chemical expenses that the Ghana Water Company has to actually incur before we are able to get the water that we consume in our various homes. But even in this state, residents within Sekenita Accra, they still have issues with the color of water that actually comes to them. And so we will be talking to them to find out what they make of the water that actually comes to their homes.
I had a offense, the bully and a yesa. You been what was so pipe or hana ye too. And I feel so pipe on say nino, and yet who says one in I airporto, and tea bully and a yesa, and haddy. Ain't he ever say a pipe on about those will crum hana, and so you to me as a bine, nino soon, a bay ye am I.
But Ghana Water and the man, then soon and yet I say, Nin airporto, and tea. Yes, I say, wine. Negalam say, no man shall not brand as a man.
Here in Intakra, the availability of water now is very, very bad. In fact, about 2 months now, we are not getting water. Even if there is water, you can't even use it because the color of the nature of the water itself is very, very bad. We can't compare both the pipe water and the ground water because it's virtually the same. In fact, the activities that is going on in the galamsey is really worrisome. Now, in fact, we don't get water. I don't know what I'm going to even use to bath this evening. In fact, you always have to rely on tankers and the rest.
Until the government stay committed to its promise to fight illegal small-scale mining here in Ghana, this is the kind of water the Ghana Water Company will have to continuously use in treating potable water for the consumption of residents of Sekenita Accra, the metropolis.
All right, so there you have it, the recent state of affairs. It is not good. Now, our colleague Akwesi Nimeje, who brought us the report, is joining us, and we want to just dig in a little bit more and find out some more. Akwesi, good morning.
Morning, David.
How are you doing today?
Doing fine.
Now, considering that maybe I can say that the Western region is almost like the epicenter of Galamsey. How do you feel about what you are looking at in that report?
Well, David, it's to be expected. I mean, looking at the fact that this region happens to be one of the major, one of the regions which is at the receiving end of most of the Galamsey activities we see in the country. It is expected that most of our water bodies will also be in this state. And looking at this very Daboase water treatment plants, it doesn't have a reservoir. If you look at some of the water treatment plants, they have reservoir. If you take in Trabane, for instance, and OAB and the rest, some of them have a dam. So when the water, it stores the water. But this one, the water is actually taken directly from the river.
Yeah.
So when there is, shortage in terms of its flow, when there is situation that actually stops easy, extraction of the water into the plant, it becomes an issue. So the situation we're facing is to be expected. As long as this Galamsey issue keeps on going, it will be the same.
Now, speaking to the authorities, is there any plan for a redesign of the plant to accommodate some kind of like a reservoir or a dam or something in order to help with the situation? Because if I would imagine that if the water had a storage point before it flowed into the processing plant, it would give the water an opportunity for some of the silt to deposit, and then the water that will be coming will be less turbid. I don't know if this is one of the things that anybody is thinking about or considering.
Well, David, the good thing is that there's actually a plan which is actually now being put into action. In November 2020, less than a month to the election, we had Osaf Mafo, the senior minister then, and the Minister for Water Resources, Abnadapa, actually coming to the regional office to cut short for the expansion of the Daboase water treatment plant, which has a current capacity of 6 million gallons per day. That is the installed capacity. And the plan is to expand it by another 22 million gallons per day. And that plan, we were told, was going to actually be implemented within a maximum of 3 years, counting from November 2020. Unfortunately, after the election, we went through 2021. 2021, nothing happened. But it is just this year's May that we saw some kind of grounds excavation taking place at the site. So when I went there, I saw the site not far from the current Daboase treatment plant, where the 22 million gallons of per day gallons of plant is being constructed. That one, I'm told, is going to have the dam as a key component of that plant, where they can then extract the raw water from the river, store it, and then maybe from there it will even settle before it goes through process. But that project is hugely delayed. It's hugely delayed, and we are now hoping that since they've started, they will keep to the time and then try to fast track it so that we can have water supply in the metropolis as frequent as people want. I must say, Takoradi actually suffered from the last quarter of last year all the way to the second quarter of this year. I think it's just the third quarter that we've seen water flowing a bit, but we still have a vast area of the metropolis which is still not having water. You take New Takoradi, for instance, they don't have water. If you come to new site in Takoradi, several places they don't have water. And even those, other places that have water, it is not frequent. And there's this complaint about even when the water comes, the color is still an issue. And people don't like using it because when they fetch it and put it down, they store it, the color becomes something. So these are the issues that is actually facing water supply over here in the metropolis.
Do you have any idea what the demand is in terms of volume of water for the Western region?
Okay, this Daboase water treatment plant serves Sekeni Takoradi metropolis. That together with Intrama water treatment plant. And I'm told the metropolis, the volumes of water that it needs per day is between 15 million gallons 50 million gallons to 20 million gallons per day. That is the expected, consumption, needs when it comes to water per day.
Yes.
And the expectation is that when this 22 million gallons per day expansion actually comes on stream, we even have excess water. But the question is, how soon will this actually come on stream? And so that is the demand over here. And we are way behind. If you look at, we are far from the target, the consumption needs. If you combine Ntrabane to that of Daboase, it still doesn't actually meet the 50 million gallons per day that people need.
So basically, it means that I'm sure there's been a lot of rationing of water in different parts of the Western region, including the capital.
Exactly. For Western region, I don't remember the last time all places had frequent water. Rationing has been a lifestyle. It's become part of our lifestyle over here. Most places are undergoing ration of water. And even sometimes when it's your turn, the water doesn't come. And so it's become a normal thing over here where people have to, wait till their turn before they get water.
You wait till their turn before they get water, but sometimes even when it's your turn, the water doesn't flow. That's quite a troubling situation. Akwesi, we are grateful for your time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. So we've been speaking with Akwesi Enimeje, our correspondent in the Western region, and giving us a real bird's eye view of the situation there. I want to say good morning to Apioko this morning. She joined me on the set. Hi, Abby.
Hi,
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Why people doing this green memo thing? I don't know whether you shared the memo around and you forgot to add me to the email.
Yeah, we just didn't send it to you. We knew you could take care of yourself. And besides, you had some green motif going on Monday.
Yeah,
so
I know, right?
We thought you've already done green. Let's not bother
show
you.
it up on the day.
Well, you didn't give us the green memo on Monday, so we had our own for today.
Okay, let's stop quibbling about green memos. No, but this situation in the Western region is on different levels. It exposes our decision-making process.
If there's one.
Yeah,
taking decisions and having a process that has a series of decision-making levels is two different things.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think that on all levels, there's a lot of exposure of, leadership failure within the country over the last 30, 40 years, because Ghana is 65, and we look at ourselves and you think about the establishments that were made in the first 10 years of our independence, right? And you consider how 55 years after those first 10 years, we seem to have done very little, to support those systems. Yes, there's always some kind of infrastructure projects going on and everything. Of course, the population too, we are very prolific. We've been, multiplying quite well,
but we're very fertile.
Yeah, but we've not done very well in terms of supporting the growth that we've seen and we've experienced. Looking at the Western region, the Daboase plant that Akwesi is talking about, the plant was built without a reservoir.
Right.
First of all, I don't know what informed that decision, to build a plant without a reservoir. But I guess those were better times.
Yeah, it could have been any number of things. Perhaps at the time, the reservoir wasn't needed. It could also have been a financial decision. It could have been any number of things. It could also be that wasn't meant to be a major supply plant at the time, right? Where now it's become more of a central point for several communities or several members or groups of the populace, right? But again, it just comes back to what you started by saying, the process of our decision making. It has to be planned. You see, even if we didn't know, or there was no way to tell that in the next 30, 40, 50 years, give or take, the population would increase, by X, so the constant to the power X, or, so we'll have maybe 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the population. And that, okay, we'll have more people moving to this part of the country because, there's oil being discovered. And maybe we couldn't tell some of these things. But I always ask, what is the plan B? What is the plan C? What is the plan D? And I believe that even as individuals, right? Even as individuals, when we are planning our lives, there are plans B, C, D, all the way, right? So how much more a whole nation? This development plan conversation that has been happening, that's another thing that we've not revisited for some time. What is our development plan? What is the intended or the desired trajectory of our development? We've not had these discussions. It's okay, this person comes, we want to do this. This government comes, well, let's do this. This is our place, this is where we want to go. But where is the plan? If the plan has been laid out, and I mean, we keep talking about Rwanda. You go to Kigali, you enter the seat of Kigali, there's a room. And in the room, there's a whole prototype laid out, room filled, then there are pictures on the walls like a gallery or some kind of exhibition room. And you can see their 50-year development plan. And as they move through the 5-year phases of the plan, they light up the prototype to let you know we've achieved this, we've achieved that. And I mean, fine, you can say, well, Kagame is there, it's a different kind of governance system. Not so much the democracy that we practice here, but either way, there's a plan. And people who are sitting there understand the plan.
But what pains me, Appy, is that we pride ourselves to be so intelligent, but we seem to be incapable of, producing these kind of things. That means that we can transit nicely from one government to another, and projects don't lie in the bush.
Well, if you're sitting down and you're priding yourself on your intelligence and not the manifestation of your intelligence, and that in itself is a problem.
We need to speak right now to Nana Yao Berimabania, who is the communications manager for the Western and Central regions of Ghana Water Company Limited. Let's find out what they're doing, what's their plan. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Thank you.
All right, so talk to us about the situation specifically at the Daboase plant. What are your plans moving forward? I understand that there is no reservoir at the plant, and that means that you're taking water directly from these heavily polluted waters. I guess when it was originally built, those were better times, but now this is what we have. What are your plans moving forward?
Well, our plans are that we will continue to deal with the unfortunate situation that we have on our hands, hoping that one day, some way, somehow, something will happen, and then this calamity will stop. Otherwise, we will still have to make do with that bad water, that excessively polluted water. We will still continue to treat that water. We are only hoping that a time does not come when we will not have water to treat. That is our hope. But for us as a company, stopping illegal connection or stopping the pollution is beyond us, because these are people who are bent on getting gold no matter where it can be found. Even if it is under your house, they will come and dig for that gold, break down your house, and then take the gold out. And that is what they are doing. Water is life. And unfortunately, they do not care whether they're taking somebody's life or not. They will continue. So we will continue to treat that polluted water, hoping that one day something will happen and this whole thing will stop.
So let me ask about the Daboase plant itself. I know that because you don't have a reservoir, the water is fed directly into the plant itself. Is there any thinking in the minds of Ghana Water Company to include a reservoir. So maybe the water that comes into the plant will not be direct from the river and will give it a chance to maybe settle. Some of the turbidity will drop, so that at least the water that's coming in will be better for the machinery and the pumping systems and all that.
Well, there is no such plan per se.
Okay.
But that is not the only river that we treat water from, which is not dammed, like in the case of Weda.
Okay.
If you look at Mong, for example, we draw from the flowing river. As the river flows, then we also draw the water from it. But what is now happening is that we are constructing, we have begun actually, the construction of a new treatment plant, which is 100,000 cubic meters of water that is going to be added to our current production. For that one, because we will need a lot more water, we are going to do some kind of a weir, block the water somehow, but it will still be flowing downstream because the people downstream also need the water for some activity. So if you block the water completely, you will deprive those who live downstream the water that they need for one thing or the other. But there will be some kind of restriction in the flow of the water so that we can draw a lot more water for that raw water for the new treatment plant that is currently in construction.
Okay.
So, good morning. I have a few questions for you. This is not the first time that the Boase plant has been in the news. Of course, I can imagine that the Galamsey illegal mining activities have worsened the situation. I remember somewhere back in 2019, there were conversations about water supply, the minimum levels. The level of the plant was, I think, at 0.8 when the minimum level is 1.0. Then somewhere earlier this year, in fact, in 2020, I believe, there were talks about expanding the plant. Then 2022 February, this conversation came up again because it was stalled. The expansion that we were expecting had stalled. Before we even get into the Galamsey bit, have you heard in recent months, since February 2022, and we heard that what we're expecting to see in terms of expansion was not happening? Since then, have you heard anything? Have you been told anything? Do you know if there are even plans still in the works to expand the plant, or is something happening that we haven't heard of?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, madam. For the expansion of the plant, it has started.
Okay.
Even tomorrow, we are going to do what we call a site meeting. We are going to meet at the site. If you come to the site, you will see real construction going on. Okay. Currently, what we are doing is that we are building the office, the administration block, which will also include the laboratory and all of that. So the construction has taken place. Okay. In fact, if your correspondent who went there had the permission, you could have given you visuals of what is going on. So with respect to the construction of the new treatment plant, which is 100,000 cubic meters capacity, it has started. I can tell you it has started.
Okay.
If journalists come there, they will see real work ongoing currently.
Okay. Now, there was a plan in place, or there was an idea of what needed to be done to increase the water production capacity before the expansion began. Am I right?
Oh, not that I am aware of. Not
okay.
that I am aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now we are dealing with the effects of Galamsey.
All right.
So
yes,
that's why I'm
with.
asking this question, because I don't know if Galamsey was as big a deal when the decision to expand the plant was taken as it is now. And I don't know if the effects that you are dealing with now are even going to become an issue, even though this expansion is happening.
This Galamsey, madam, I must say, unfortunately, did not start yesterday. Neither did it start the day before yesterday. It's been going on for years now. I can say more than a decade. Yeah. So, definitely, we know Galamsey is there, but we will still continue to do the expansion. As I said, all we are going to do is to block the water somehow to restrict the flow of the water, so that a lot more water could be staged, a lot more water could gather behind the embankment that we are going to, so that we can extract more water. Because here, we are going to produce water in larger quantity. So we need a lot more water to abstract, a lot more raw water to abstract. That is why we are going to do that. The Galamsey notwithstanding, we will go ahead with the construction, and we are hoping that maybe one day something will happen, and then this Galamsey will stop. If it doesn't stop, too bad. We will still continue to continue to operate as a company. But let me sound this alarm that if this Galamsey does not stop, in fact, a time would come, I don't know when, a time would come that there will be no water to treat in Ghana. Yes, it has happened before. There was a time when in Chile, a plant that has been built not too long ago had to be shut down because the nature of the water was such that it was beyond treatment. For a year, there was no treatment from that plant because the water was just beyond purification. And we don't know when Daboase is going to also experience that thing. So that after we have built this 100,000 cubic meter capacity plant, then there is no water because of the greed of some groups of people in this country. Somebody must stop, must stand up to them, so that this one will stop. Otherwise, there's danger ahead of us, really.
Okay, so Nanayao.
Yes, madam.
Your cost of production has also gone up because of
Definitely.
these illegal mining activities. How is that? How do you see that affecting you and affecting indeed the communities? We're dealing with economic challenges on every front. How do you see that affecting the work you do at the Ghana Water Company Limited and also the communities as we go on in the coming months?
Yes, we have always said that the cost of production of water in Ghana because of Galamsey is actually going up by the day. Because the more polluted the water, the more chemicals you need to introduce into the raw water. So it becomes potable or something that human beings can use for one thing or the other.
Nanaya,
So
sorry, not to cut you, but can you give us an idea of how much it costs?
That's
yes.
what I was going to do, madam.
Right.
That's what I was going to do. Prior to the emergence of Galamsey digging for gold on river body, Daboase were using 20 bags of aluminum sulfate to treat water in a day. But because of Galamsey, because some people have come to sit on the water to dig for gold, the same quantity of water that we are producing, we are producing it by using 60 bags of aluminum sulfate, which is normally called alum for short.
Did you say 60?
60.
When you would
From
usually have
20.
used 20. Wow.
From 20 to 60 bags of alum. Well, let me go to Bonsa. Bonsa is also a place where we treat water for residents of Kapa and Swahili municipality. Prior to that, we were using 1.5 bags of alum to treat water. The same quality of water that we treat now, we need to use 10 bags. Look at the jump. 10 bags. From 1.5 to 10 bags. So that is what we are dealing with. The cost of treatment keeps going up by the day because of the excessively polluted nature of the water, the raw water we have. So that's what we are dealing with.
So, Nanaya, how much does a bag of alum typically cost?
Frankly speaking, I don't know. I really cannot tell.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and let me say that it is bought in foreign currency, but I have no idea of how much that costs.
But whatever be the case, give or take, if we were looking at the prices being level, you're spending 3 times what you would have spent without dealing with the effects of illegal mining.
Yes,
Wow.
that's what it means now. Because we need to introduce a lot more chemicals so that the turbidity and the color of the water will come down.
Yeah.
Let me say that I think about a month ago or so when I did an interview with you or some other media network, the color of the water, the color of the water had risen to 9,014 ATU. Later, it got to 10,000 ATU. But this color, this parameter, must be reduced from that high up there to 5.
Yeah.
From 10,000 or 9,014 to 5.
Single 5.
Single 5. And then the turbidity, which was at 3,000, must also be brought to 5. Single 5. So this requires the introduction of a lot more chemicals. And this is what Ghana Water Company, whether you have money or not, you must find money to feed well. Why? Because water is life.
Yeah.
You cannot let the people live without water. So that is what we have to deal with now. And that's what I think we have to arouse the conscience of whoever can help to come in. Because it's terrible. In fact, unfortunately, I must say this. I've not heard of any country in the world where such a thing is going on. I've not heard so far. That there's a country where the people sit on water and dig for gold. I've not heard that. This Chinese, it can't even crop your mind. It can't come into your mind that you won't dare. And you are here and you are doing it freely. It's strange, really. So somebody should do something for us, for the company. We cannot do anything about it because these are people who are bent on getting what they want, bearing any consequences. Yes. So when we even see them, we just behave as if we have not seen them.
Nanaya, my final question for you. We've spoken about the cost implications for what we are dealing with as far as Galamsey is concerned. But as we are using more and more chemicals to purify the water, to get it to a point where humans can use it for all the things that we need to use it for, do you know if that also has an effect on us as human beings who are using it for bathing, for washing, for whatever we need to use it for?
Well, we have experts in water quality in Ghana Water Company. In fact, in every region, we have them. So I'm sure they will advise if it was dangerous for us to continue to do that thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because the point is this. We, the staff of the company, and even the water quality chief manager, also uses the same water that excessively polluted water that we treat, using that quantity of chemicals. So we are also at risk. So I'm sure if there was any such danger, they would have advised so that we would be, because let me make this last point. Our staff, the production staff, those who see the water, wherever the plant is, they actually live there most of the time. They live there. So they are always about the first people to take the water before it goes out, because that's where they live. So if there's danger, they'll be the first people to be affected by that danger. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nanayal. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, madam.
Have a
It's a
good
pleasure.
day. We'll continue making the noise so that the people who need to hear will hear and act. We've been speaking to Nanayal Berima Banye. He's a communications manager for the Western and Central regions of the Ghana Water Company Limited outfits.
So I wanted to just say, Abby, that, we talk about 5 NTUs. So the NTU is the nephelometric turbidity unit, right? It's a measure of how hazy or cloudy the water is, right? And
Just to put that into context, you've got Sky Water here. This is very clear.
It's very clear.
If we were to pour some of the creamy plus into it, it would become cloudy. So that's the turbidity, the color of the water, how clear it is. Right?
Whether you can see through or not see through, how much light can pass through, the water. And if it's supposed to be at 5 NTUs for it to be potable, right? We're talking about 9,000 NTUs.
And 14,000 in some cases. I mean,
it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And like what he said, there's no country on earth where people are sitting in rivers digging for gold except GH. And somehow, we are still playing games with it.
Well, we are the Gold Coast.
I mean, it's the most insane, ridiculous thing ever. I don't understand how we get away with these things. And you see, but you know, the beautiful thing about it is that it will come back and bite us. And unfortunately,
it's already started.
The communities, yes, in many ways it has already begun. Because the communities where this is happening, and many times the people in those communities have been very adamant about not stopping the galamsey because it's for their livelihood. They are already beginning to have genetic malformations in their offspring. We are seeing it now. It's beginning. But that's just the beginning. It's going to get worse. Hopefully before it gets better. The impact beyond the community's direct impact is going to be health hazards. But beyond the community, now we're going to have a situation where water plants are shutting down because they can't process. The water bodies are so bad, they cannot process. It's not that they don't want to process, they can't.
They can't. Just can't.
The machines cannot handle it. Then, we will now see when you have to import water to water your garden, water to bath. Then we will now see who has been wise and who has been foolishly mismanaging the resources that were given to them. The leaders who are in charge of these spaces, it's not me that is saying. The evidence is on the ground. You've been forewarned. We'll take a break. We'll come back and continue.